going to try and upgrade this broken, or not really, it's not broken, but the transmitter is missing or broken, brushed cheap Ferrari toy. So I've taken the top off, and what I've done is I've put the screws there so I don't lose them. I've done the same here. I've taken the cover off, put the screw there so I don't lose that, and I'm going to remove this brushed motor and put in a servo. I'm going to leave that brushed motor in there, take this ESC and all-in-one receiver off, and this is something I bought from Hobby King to give it proportional steering, because at the moment it's either got a hard left and a hard right but nothing in between, so it's not very accurate steering, and then it's only got full throttle or no throttle at all, whereas this will give me proportional steering and better throttle control. With the transmitter there was a receiver, I don't know that, it didn't say, so I ended up buying one separately, but there was one provided. We've got very similar part numbers. I'll test if both work. In the box there is a manual, so that's handy. That helped me figure stuff out. There's a spare grip and a USB charging, I think, for this battery. This one comes with a Lion polymer battery. I'll show you a little. There's a 2.4 gigahertz and it's got some controls in there, some fine tuning in there. Quite sturdy, really nice feel to it. Springs back to center. Got a good feel to it. Right, do you want to play with that? Alright, so get that out of the way. Put that out of the way. We don't need that now. We'll probably will need that now. So what I'm going to do is, this takes 4 AAAs. We're going to run it on a LiPo battery. I'm going to snip that off or saw that off here and here. Take this board off, not needed anymore. These just plug out. For something that cost only £10, it's quite nicely constructed, especially the body. It's a nice little engine cover. It does actually look, the chassis looks like a Mini Z almost. Also, what I want to do is, it only goes as far as this. Not much travel on the steering, so I want to, so it's getting caught just right there, and I'm just going to shave that off just to give it a bit more travel. So these just plug straight out. Some kind of JST connector, I think. There's many variations of the JST. There. There we go. So that will come out. I might keep that for another project. I think that's an anti-radio frequency kind of little module to stop it interfering with your TV or radio when it's in action. That's what that's for. So yeah, we'll have a go now. So slot in a servo in there and attach it with the screw. So I don't say what this was. This was forget, New Bright. Yeah, picked it up from Tesco's. New Bright, 40 megahertz. You're not very quick at all. Runs on 4.5 volts. So we're going to try and run it on a 2S. 7.2 volts, 7.4 volts, and see how that does. Okay, just going to try and chop this off now. Might just use some kind of snipping tool. If I can get this in, should be quite easy. It doesn't matter if I damage the board, because I don't think I'll have a use for it anyway. But it should be, if I get a bite. Yeah, nearly. Yeah, weren't too bad. There you go, that's one done. I probably could use a little cutting tool for this, but I've got a kid next to me, so I'm just going to use basic hand tools for this job, just to be safe. Nearly there. That not too bad. Let's come straight out. Oh no, it's attached to something. Oh, this little clip here. There we go. Now that can be put aside. You can have a look at that if you want. So we don't need that. That is the old receiver that talks to the old radio, and that's also the speed controller for the motor, the brushed motor, and it's also used to control the steering. So now we're going to pull this steering motor out, put in a servo for better control, for proportional steering, and then a speed control for greater control on the acceleration and throttle. It's a nice noise. So there's no suspension or anything like that, but it's only a two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive. No differential at all, nothing like that. It's a fixed axle. So we'll start with the next part. I also got this a speed controller for a brushed motor, and it has 3 pins here. I think that's for. This is actually for a TZ4 Carnegie TZ4 mini touring car. These are discontinued now, but they still sell the. There's still a nice servo there and a motor set up there, really nicely made. I'm sure on the specs on this. I think it's like 30 amp or 20 amp. I think it's a 30. It's more than enough for this, I should think. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's an on-off switch, I think. And then I don't know. I don't have a clue. I think that must be where you connect the battery, I'm guessing, and that must be where you connect to the this. See there. Okay, I'm going to plug this in. Wonder if that's got any juice on it. That's probably in the off position. Let's try that. Oh, there you go. Light. Bind. We'll have to plug that bind cable in. Right. We switch that on. Okay, in the manual it says they already come matched or bound from the factory, so I'm just going to try it. So I'll figure this out So the ESC, which is from a discontinued TZ4, that's the ESC. Not many videos explain this really clearly, maybe because it's obvious or something, but anyway, I've got these JST connectors which have that connection on one side and some wire on the other, and those two are the motor out pins. Presuming this can be switched in any way, or they can be reversed anyway. I'm just going to match it red, black, black. Hopefully that matches up. That's the switch that switches the ESC on. That's for the battery. This connects usually to channel 2. I think it can be added to any channel, but I think throttle is usually on channel 2 from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And then from the board that was taken off this new bright car, this brushed new bright car, has the female end, that's the male end. So I'll take that off and I'll connect it to this, or I could just solder that onto this, but I'd rather take this off because I don't need this. Solder that onto the end of that JST plug so it slots in really nicely together like that. So I'll take this off, I'll desolder it and I'll put it on the end of this, so it goes from receiver to ESC to receiver, and then the motor out pins to the motor, and the battery connects. So that should work. Okay, I've just pushed the wires in for now, just to give it a test. And I've got this tiny little battery. Should be fine. Probably let's put that there. That'll do. That should be pre-matched. Let's give that a go. Switch it on. There we go. So that, I think that's actually going backwards. So I'll just flip the wires around. Oh, I could probably switch that around on the... Oh, not that one, sorry. Which was it? That one. So let's just flip that over. Other way. Let's see what that does. So then give it another test. Yeah, so that's working now. And then I'll just plug in the servo to one of the other channels here. I think channel 1, and that will give me my steering. So I'll take that out. I'll put a servo in there, connect it to the steering rack with some glue or screw or something, and that should work. So I've connected a servo to channel 1, the ESC to channel 2, the motor to the ESC, the double pins on the 2 pins on the ESC, the 3-pin servo is connected to channel 1. And now I'll try and get that in there like that, and then when I turn, and then somehow connect this possibly with some wire or some kind of pin or something to the steering column, and that should do that. What's happened to the... Something's gone wrong with the... Oh, that's come off. Connection's come off, so I have to solder that back on. And probably have to tie that with a zip tie there, because that will come off again. So if I just hold that there, that's probably what the problem was with the... Oh, something's happened, look. Trying to get that to run. Could you squeeze the trigger on that? Just squeeze it, yeah, and hold it. Yeah. Loose connection. Squeeze it a few times. Let go. Squeeze it again. Yeah, I'll have to make that more secure. So it's working. We have a working, upgraded car. And I might in future replace that with a brushless or something, and then have a play around with it. But that's an introduction to the basics of RC cars, and it's got my daughter into it, which is fun. And I've learnt lots just from spending an hour or two just doing that. So this is my first time that I've had a proper go at this, and it's yeah, I've learnt a lot. Any comments, please put them down. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon. Thank you. Right, this fits in that slot there. That's where the old motor used to go, steering motor. The shaft used to go through this gap here. That's not big enough for this little round bit here, so I'm going to cut it with that mini grinder set just to make it a bit wider here, and then I'm going to slot that through. This, I'll have to find a screw for that to hold that in place on the teeth, and then on the end of this servo arm or horn, I will probably glue or screw and glue onto that steering rack there. So when that goes left, it will go left, and when it goes right, it will go right. So I'll do that, and then I'll show you the results. So I've used this for like engraving. I've not used it for cutting. So I'm gonna try this for the first time. So I found the cutting disc and the holder. I think it goes that first, then the washer, then the screw. Let's do it. Tighten that up with a screwdriver. If I can find one. Right, knew I had one handy somewhere. There we go. So that's my kid in the background doing a bit of babysitting and a bit of hobby stuff at the same time. There we go. Get that in there. That just about fits through. Get that stuck in there, I think, and then just tighten this down. Press the locking screw. Just tighten that down. That's as far as it goes. Hopefully that won't fly off. I'll chuck some goggles on just in case. I can chop off as much as I like, as long as it's not something that's supporting the structure. That's the only fixing point. That can probably come off. That can come off. Not sure whether that's there. So I've trimmed all this back. I've made this slot bigger for the servo, and I've taken the whole steering mechanism off. I've trimmed these bits down here just so the steering travels further, and I've drilled a couple of holes. Get this to focus. So I've drilled a couple of holes on there, and then I've wrapped wire round, and it's quite sturdy. I haven't glued it, but I think that should do. So that should sit in there. Just slide left to right like this. So there's a lot more travel now in there. And I'm going to put the servo in there and just screw it in place there. There we go. It's getting caught on there, so I'll have to shave that down. Okay, we get. Oops. I think, did I get that in the wrong way? Yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to clip that together. Kids, stop arguing. Okay, so that's gone in. And now I'm going to try and put this. Yeah, but you're the big older sister, so you've got to be the sensible one. There. Now I should have a wider travel. Yeah, that's much better. That is actually pretty good. Wow, I'm impressed with that. At one point I was thinking this is too much effort, but I'm glad. Look at that. It's almost like a drift car. Wonder if it will do a drift. Subscribe for more videos like this and hit the bell icon. Oh, sorry about all these plastic shavings, and I'll hoover that up later. So that's right, here we go. So what I've done is I've put some wire around, twist it around to secure the servo. So one under, one over, or both behind actually the servo, because it tries to push away from the steering rack. This actually unclips, so I unclipped it, soldered a JST on there instead, because it came off anyway. I think it was the JST-PH connector that came off, so I just thought I might as well just solder on a standard JST, and that could slot straight into the ESC. If I can get that on there, right. I mean, this took quite a lot of time, about a couple of hours, because this is new to me relatively, and I think it was a good 2 hours spent. So if I remember correctly, it was this way around, but I can always swap the polarity around on the receiver or anything like that. So there you go. That motor goes straight into there on the 2 pins. That will go on the battery. You can try it out. Where's that battery? There it is. Let's try to keep it red to red, black to black. Right, lights on. I'll tidy that up later. I'll just stick that in there for now. And switch the radio on. Alright, so why is it going nuts? Have I done something wrong? Okay. Oh, it must be the throttle trim. Okay, that's the throttle trim. Okay, so if I just take that right down, I think the throttle trim needs to be adjusted to 0. Yeah, so throttle trim, TH trim, needs to be adjusted to 0. So it's pointing at 0, so then that makes sense. Steering trim's already at 0. So that's actually going backwards, so I could just either swap the wires around or just go onto my radio, which is easy. I'll just do that. And there's a steering reverse, I think, and a throttle reverse. I'll just flick that switch and then reverse. Yep, and forward. Brilliant. And the steering. Okay, so I'm going to try to drive this around and show you what it is like. So I'm going to stick all that in there and give that a try.